Li Yuanqing gently clenched his fists. When his fingers closed, the necks of the two monkeys shrank as the space in his hands shrank. These two apes, who were at the fourth or fifth stage of the spirit transformation realm, died silently in their boss's bedroom. They did not even leave any traces of resistance. Li Yuanqing casually threw the corpses of the two apes into his domain. The man-eating vine easily caught them and devoured their bodies. Facing the door in front of him, Li Yuanqing slapped it effortlessly. The powerful force immediately destroyed the array formation on the door. He had studied array formations for a period of time. Such a strong array formation was not difficult for him. When the small door opened, what greeted his eyes was a dazzling array of jewels. Among them were mountains of spirit stones and countless artifacts. Although the demons had no use for these jewels, they especially liked to collect the treasures of these humans. They treated these things as their collection and did not use them. They just hang them on their shelves for display. They just felt comfortable looking at them. Li Yuanqing knocked on some treasures of good quality and placed them into his domain. He was not sure what he was going to do with them. All the spirit stones were moved into the domain. In a short while, half of the huge cave was empty. However, Li Yuanqing discovered something very strange. It was in the deepest part of the cave. This was a very strange vine. The huge vine extended out and spread out, occupying the deepest part of the cave and the inner wall. Li Yuanqing looked up at the wall of blood-red vines. A dangerous aura rose in his heart. Master, this thing makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. The man-eating vine suddenly appeared beside Li Yuanqing. At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared on the huge ball of meat at the center of the blood-red vine. The crack opened like a human eyelid, revealing a huge blood-red eyeball. It stared coldly at Li Yuanqing. How terrifying was this scene! Li Yuanqing slowly pulled out the sword in his hand. Although he did not know what this thing was, he felt that it was not something good. It was not a good thing to let him live. However, at this moment, the big eyeball suddenly made a sound and begged Li Yuanqing for mercy. Young hero of the human race, please spare my life. Li Yuanqing quietly watched as he held the sword in his hand, ready to attack at any moment. Who are you? Why are you here? I'm a bloodvine and have some ability to predict fortune and misfortune. Therefore, I was taken over by Tarzan and was raised by him as he asked me to help him do some things. However, since Tarzan is dead, you are my new master. You said you can do divination? I'm not talented. I have some ability to predict fate, so I'm not considered agile. However, I'm more or less useful. If master can trust me. The man-eating vine bared her teeth and looked at the blood vine. She clearly did not have a good temper towards this fellow clansman. Li Yuanqing looked at him and asked, since you can predict fortune, why did Tarzan die there? The blood vine lowered its eyes respectfully. It was very abrupt to see a humble appearance on such an ugly face. If Tarzan knew his limits, he wouldn't have thought of occupying Rong City. I've already reminded him, but he doesn't believe me. Nonsense. The man-eating vine pouted and looked at him. The stronger your host is, the more benefits you can obtain. Tarzan is no longer useful to you, so you killed him and found a new host. Isn't that what you wanted? Hearing the man-eating vine's words, the blood vine let out an awkward laugh. Little sister, you're right. I did have something to do with his death, but Tarzan deserves to die. Sooner or later, this catacombs world will belong to the human race. I don't want to serve him anymore. Other than having some bad habits, this stinky monkey doesn't have any other strengths. Li Yuanqing listened to the commotion behind him and finally looked at the blood vine. Do you have the ability to transform your body? Master, please wait a moment. The blood vine's voice was clearly filled with excitement. The huge vines that covered the wall slowly shrank inward. In the end, all the vines gathered in the middle. This huge lump hung on the wall like a huge tumor. Then, this huge tumor slowly shrank until it was the size of a person. Then, it fell from the wall with a plop, as if a fruit had ripened and landed. The blood vine rolled to Li Yuanqing's feet. Li Yuanqing raised his hand and kept the huge lump of meat into his domain. Master, he doesn't look like a good person. Why did you take him in? The man-eating vine complained unhappily. He seems to have some ability. We'll talk about how to deal with him when we get back. Those monkeys are about to catch up. It's better not to complicate things now. We still have another place to go." As Li Yuanqing spoke, he hurriedly put away some useful things and left the cave filled with treasures. He left silently. Not long after he left, a group of monkeys rushed in while arguing. "Get lost. This is mine. You're the one who should get lost." They waved the weapons in their hands and ran in while arguing. There were not many who could escape, but now they were fighting again. For a moment, the entire mountain was filled with shouts. Blood mixed with pieces of flesh kept exploding in all directions. Moreover, it was as if the monkeys did not feel anything. Their eyes were red from killing. They did not retreat even when their bodies were covered in blood. However, when the final winner charged into the cave where the treasures were hidden, they were all dumbfounded. "Who did it? I'm going to kill them." These monkeys were wailing, but Li Yuanqing was already 100 miles away. He's rushing towards the other side, where the people seemed to be fighting. The members of the Flying Dragon clan gathered outside the snake cave. Although there were many entrances to the snake cave, they were all on guard and no one dared to enter first. If they ran forward and were suddenly ambushed from behind, it would be difficult for them to even turn around with their size. Therefore, they had to discuss it now. "Since the boss is already gone, I'll see how many people are left. Just split these treasures. There's no need to fight to the death. These treasures were left to us by the boss in the first place. If we continue to fight like this, our Flying Dragon clan will fall apart, and we will never have the chance to rise again." Someone even shouted, "In my opinion, we shouldn't split these things. We should continue to be united and bring this place to greater heights. This is the base of our Flying Dragon clan. We can't destroy it just like that." The statement of unity, although it sounded ridiculous, was supported by many people. This was because these people wanted to take advantage of the situation. When someone let down their guard, they would naturally be able to obtain more benefits. As time passed, the remaining members of the Flying Dragon clan gradually gathered here. There were a few people who had the right to speak in the past, but in this situation, no one would listen to them. The treasures of Long Tianzuan are naturally all obtained by our Flying Dragon clan. However, the death of our boss is strange. In my opinion, we should avenge our boss first. Seventh Elder, your words are simple. You've seen the power of that human. Have you thought about whether you have that ability if we want to take revenge on him? That's right. Even our boss isn't his match in the first place. Let's not talk about it. Then according to you, we can only fight to the death and find an outcome. There's no need. Our boss said that those who are capable can take them. Now that he is gone, in my opinion, everyone should split them in order. At that time, these treasures will be easy to split. When Li Yuanqing arrived, these snakes were discussing the competition. They had already decided on it. They would each choose a few groups to fight as groups. Each group would calculate the total number of wins and rank them according to the number of wins they had. When the time came to go in and distribute the treasures, everyone would have their own basis. Li Yuanqing did not expect that these snakes would have a more appropriate arrangement than those apes. Those apes were all killing each other, and there were not many left. Li Yuanqing did not wait for them to argue. He sneaked into the snake cave when they were not paying attention. This snake cave was very tall. Compared to ordinary snake caves, the ceiling here was much higher. This was because they were from the Flying Snake clan. Although they considered themselves to be from the dragon race, they were still snakes in the end. It was just that they had wings, so this cave had to be built wider to prevent inconvenience. Li Yuanqing sensed something and headed in the direction of the cave. The shouts outside never stopped. Li Yuanqing slowly walked forward under their shouts. After walking for about a few thousand meters, he suddenly arrived at a heavy door. There was a huge door, but because it was flat on the ground, it was a little strange. It looked like the cover of a patio. There was naturally a powerful array formation on the lid. Li Yuanqing stretched out a hand without hesitation and pressed it heavily against the huge door. He easily shattered the door. The defensive array covering it disappeared almost instantly. A defensive array of this level was not a threat to him. However, as the defensive array here was shattered, the entire snake cave shook. They never expected that while they were still fighting for the spots outside, the array inside had already been forcefully shattered. Oh no, someone beat us to it. They were still fighting in an orderly manner just now, but they couldn't care less now. After looking at each other, they crawled into the nearest snake cave. The door inside had already been shattered. If they didn't go in now, everything inside would be taken away, and they would have nothing left. Li Yuanqing fell straight down from the huge circular hole. This original pillar was bottomless. Long Tianzuan had turned this place into a huge treasure vault. He dug countless holes on the original walls on both sides. These holes were guarded by transparent barriers, and all kinds of treasures were displayed inside. Li Yuanqing erupted with powerful strength without hesitation. Almost in an instant, he shattered all the protective membranes. Li Yuanqing then used a powerful traction technique to collect all the treasures placed inside. One by one, the treasures were taken into Li Yuanqing's domain. The large amounts of treasure formed a river, like hundreds of rivers flowing into the sea, and flowed into his domain. As it formed a vortex above Li Yuanqing's head, it spun and sucked into Li Yuanqing's body. As long as these treasures reached Li Yuanqing, it was as if they had entered a black hole. They no longer had any life and disappeared one by one. After collecting everything, Li Yuanqing soared into the sky and rushed out of the cave. The moment Li Yuanqing rushed out, a huge flying snake arrived. Its snake eyes were filled with red light as it glared at Li Yuanqing angrily. "How dare you come to our place to steal?" The snake spoke and roared angrily before charging towards Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing did not say anything else. He pulled out his sword and swung it. The unparalleled power emitted from it made the snake regret it. The huge snake's body was split into two from top to bottom like a bamboo pole. It landed on the ground with a plop and no longer had any life force. The snake had just had the thought of regretting when it died in the next moment. After Li Yuanqing dealt with this huge snake, he did not stay long with these flying snakes. Their strength was not bad, and it was not bad to leave them for the future humans to train. If they were exterminated today, it would be much less fun in the catacombs. Li Yuanqing turned into a shadow and slowly advanced through the snake cave. In a short while, he passed through the many angry flying snakes and arrived outside the snake cave. From time to time, there were explosions in the snake cave. They were already fighting inside. Li Yuanqing walked hundreds of miles away and found a quiet mountain peak. He landed and dug out a cave. The man-eating vine landed outside, and her vines covered all corners of the mountain. Under the surveillance of the man-eating vine, this mountain could be said to be absolutely safe. In the cave, Li Yuanqing took out the blood-red meatball. When Li Yuanqing placed it in his domain, he used a layer of imprisonment to prevent the blood vine from obtaining too much freedom. Li Yuanqing was still a little wary of this fellow. This demon seemed to be more intelligent than ordinary demons. Moreover, his entire body emitted an evil aura. He could not tell where he came from. The blood vine slowly stretched out, revealing his huge eyes as he stared at Li Yuanqing. "You said you know divination?" "Master, I only know a little. I'm not proficient. I'm still far from Master's spell." The blood vine lowered his body to the ground and looked up at Li Yuanqing. Although Li Yuanqing had yet to confirm that he would accept him, this fellow was very sweet and kept calling him master. "I never said I wanted to keep you." The blood vine looked at Li Yuanqing quietly and suddenly laughed. "If master didn't want to take me in, I'm afraid I would have died in the cave of Tarzan." The blood vine was really smart. His words were even more stable. "All right, since you want to follow me, tell me why Tarzan thinks so highly of you and keeps you in his treasure pavilion." "Because I have some ability to seek luck and avoid calamity. I can help Tarzan avoid the assassinations of some enemies." "Really?" Li Yuanqing looked at the blood vine carefully. This fellow sounded quite honest, but there was always a hint of lying in his words. He did not expect such a strange species to be born among these demons. He had thought that the demons in the catacombs were all simple-minded people. Now that he had seen one today, he realized that there were still these demons who relied on their brains for a living. Li Yuanqing did not believe him. This statement was too simple. If that was all he had, it would not be enough for Tarzan to keep him by his side so intimately. It was clear that he hid many secrets. The blood vine looked at Li Yuanqing respectfully and said, "I have some other abilities, but they are all insignificant. I also know a little more and know a little about the various things in the catacombs. How much do you know? I happen to know some information that's useful to Tarzan. That's why I worked with him for a while. However, since that monkey has already died, these things are not worth mentioning. The Bloodvine's words were said casually, as if it was deliberately making this matter simple. His words were very difficult to satisfy him. A black sword slowly rose from Li Yuanqing's back and hung above his head. His eyes stared coldly at the Bloodvine, the meaning in them making one shiver. Seeing this, the Bloodvine did not dare to say anything else. He hurriedly begged Li Yuanqing, "Master, I've said everything I need to say. If there's anything else that I haven't explained, just tell me." Li Yuanqing did not have such a good temper. His voice also became colder. "I've already said everything just now. I thought you would be able to reveal more or less what you know, but I didn't expect that we're still a little distant. You're always hiding something, so there's no need to negotiate with me here." Before Li Yuanqing could finish his sentence, the sword hanging behind him suddenly stabbed towards the Bloodvine. The Bloodvine was shocked when he saw this. The vines on his body twisted violently, as if there was blood spreading inside. The Bloodvine was so frightened that his entire body twitched. He watched as the powerful energy approached his head. This energy was not something he could withstand. He hurriedly shouted at Li Yuanqing, "Sir, spare me. I'll tell you everything." The Bloodvine closed his big eyes tightly. He did not dare to open them and watch Li Yuanqing's sword land on his body. However, after a while, there was no intense pain as he imagined. The Bloodvine slowly opened his eyes and realized that the dark sword was hovering an inch in front of his big eye. If he took another step forward, it would really stab down. The Bloodvine seemed to heave a long sigh of relief and looked at Li Yuanqing gratefully. His eyes revealed the joy of surviving a calamity. Li Yuanqing had seen through his little scheme just now. Li Yuanqing snorted and said to him, "I hate it when people lie to me." "Sir, please calm down. I shouldn't have lied to you." The Bloodvine lay on the ground respectfully, his body trembling. Li Yuanqing looked down at him. "You better give me a reason to let you live." "Master, don't be anxious. I wonder if Master has heard of the ape saint ancestor?" "What's that?" Actually, many demons in the catacombs are also outsiders. For example, the ape race originally came from outside the catacombs and gradually grew stronger inside. The Bloodvine told Li Yuanqing obediently. However, there was also a large-scale conflict between the demons back then. It was only after that the current situation arose. Li Yuanqing slowly sized up the Bloodvine. This fellow was indeed hiding something. Initially, Li Yuanqing was just guessing to scare it. He did not expect to bluff something out. When Tarzan and Long Tianzuan faced each other, his physical condition was already not very good. Logically speaking, there was still a difference in strength between the two of them. Generally speaking, Long Tianzuan's strength was definitely suppressed. However, Tarzan seemed to have no intention of getting serious with Long Tianzuan that day. Both sides were very harmonious. This matter was too strange. It was not until Li Yuanqing arrived at Tarzan's lair and discovered the Bloodvine that he seemed to understand some of the reasons. The reason why the Bloodvine emitted such a dense evil aura was that this thing needed to be nourished with blood. Tarzan nourished this thing with his blood essence every day and night, causing him to be in a bad state. That was why Tarzan took the initiative to suggest that the two sides negotiate in Rong City. He thought that he could scare Long Tianzuan with his might. However, Tarzan would never have thought that someone like Li Yuanqing would appear halfway and mess up all his plans. And then? What happened after that? You can't possibly want to brush it off by saying such things. The Bloodvine hurriedly begged for mercy. "Master, calm down. I definitely won't dare to prevaricate." "Continue." Their ape race originally obtained a great deal in that war, but they couldn't find any of it. They only left behind a rumor that the monkey saint ancestor had hidden all his assets and hadn't had the time to explain. Treasure? That's right. It's the treasure of the monkey saint ancestor. This is a huge sum of wealth. If we can find where this wealth is, we might have the power to rule the catacombs. Li Yuanqing rubbed his chin and thought about whether this fellow's words were true or false. However, he really had to see what this treasure was. What kind of treasure was it that as long as one possessed it, they could become a king in the catacombs? This was too ridiculous. The bloodvine carefully sized up Li Yuanqing's expression. It was unknown if Li Yuanqing would believe it. This master's temper was unfathomable. More importantly, he was too powerful. The bloodvine thought that he was knowledgeable, but even though he had been in the catacombs for so many years, he had never seen someone as unfathomable as Li Yuanqing. This master was really powerful. After a long time, Li Yuanqing suddenly shook his head. This action shocked the bloodvine. "Master," Li Yuanqing asked him, "aren't your words a little too strange? This catacomb world is so huge. If just the monkey saint ancestor can possess such power, why didn't they unify the catacombs back then? How could they leave it to me to do that?" The bloodvine hurriedly said, "Master, you don't know. Actually, all those important figures disappeared overnight. Originally, there were a few treasures in the catacombs that had grasped absolute law in their hands, but these people are gone." "There's such a thing?" "This catacomb is a small world to begin with, so it naturally has its own laws here. Originally, these laws could be controlled, but ever since that battle, a few forces have occupied those treasures. Moreover, since then, those treasures and the important figures of these families have never appeared again. Therefore, if someone can find the location of these treasures first, they will naturally have a chance to unify the catacombs." The bloodvine's words were a little tempting. If there was really such a good opportunity, it would naturally be an opportunity for Li Yuanqing. The human race here is weak now. A powerful leader needs to stand up and lead them to grow stronger. Although Li Yuanqing was strong enough now, the humans here could not rely on his strength alone to fight against the demons. He had to strengthen the humans here. This sounded like a very long process, but if such a treasure existed, it could greatly shorten this time. This was really a huge opportunity. Li Yuanqing looked up at the bloodvine and asked, "In other words, Tarzan raised you in your bedroom for this treasure?" "Master, you are wise. Many years ago, I accidentally obtained a map underground. This map is related to the treasure of the monkey saint ancestor."
Map?
"That's right. That map is very unique. It has the unique token seal of the ape race. On it, it vaguely points to a location, but I haven't understood it for so many years." "What map? Let me see." A vine suddenly stretched out from under his body and gradually reached Li Yuanqing's feet. The vine was empty. There was nothing on it, but a bulge at the root of the vine moved slowly forward, as if a small ball was swimming inside. As the small bulge gradually moved forward, it finally reached the shoulder of the vine. With a plop, a hole appeared in the small bulge, and it exploded like a small ball. A rolled-up map was wrapped in a few small vines and delivered to Li Yuanqing. The bloodvine had preserved the map quite well. Li Yuanqing sized up the body of the bloodvine again. This fellow was so agile and had such a map hidden in his body. Could it be that his body had such an effect? However, he did not know if there was anything else hidden. Li Yuanqing took the map and opened it to take a closer look. However, he frowned tightly after that. This map was a very simple picture. There were some strange lines drawn in the middle of the mountains on it. They were connected together and looked messy. If one scanned the picture, it seemed like a useless drawing or a description of a certain place. This looked too strange, and he could not tell anything. Looking at Li Yuanqing's worried expression, the bloodvine hurriedly explained, "Master, based on my guess, this must be a place. As long as we find this place, we will definitely be able to find the place where the monkey saint ancestor hid his treasures. At that time, the entire world of catacombs will be yours." Li Yuanqing slowly put away the map and pondered for a while. "Have you been searching for it all these years?" "Master, I've been looking for it with Tarzan for 100 years. 100 years? The bloodvine hurriedly said, "But I seem to have some clues recently. The roots I released have sent some news recently. It seems to have found a few similarities. As long as I rush over to confirm, I can identify them. Where is it?" "At present, there are a total of 3 possible places. This place is about thousands of kilometers away. We will be able to rush over in no time with your strength." Li Yuanqing pondered silently for a moment and lowered his head to look at the bloodvine. "Are you willing to be my servant?" Since this blood vine seemed to be useful, he would keep it for the time being and spare his life. The blood vine had been waiting for a long time. It slowly crawled on the ground and shouted very respectfully, "Master! All right, I happen to have an inner demon here. I'll give it to you." As Li Yuanqing spoke, he raised a hand and placed it on the head of the blood vine. On the flat ground, a black light spot entered the blood vine's body from Li Yuanqing's palm. After the inner demon was planted, the blood vine's aura withered for a moment. Some images seemed to flash past Li Yuanqing's eyes. These images came from all kinds of different places. They were thousands of kilometers away from here, or even tens of thousands of kilometers away. It turned out that the blood vine had transformed into countless seeds and spread out. These seeds kept extending out and searching for places that matched the description. It was the news brought back by the seeds released by the blood vine that allowed the blood vine to confirm 3 places. However, these 3 places were in 3 different directions. Now, they were in the center of the triangle formed by the 3 locations. In that case, it would probably take them a while to check all 3 locations. "Master, this is too far. Isn't this a waste of time?" The man-eating vine looked at the blood vine warily. From the moment she saw him, she did not have a good impression of him. This glib-tongued blood vine actually had a way to convince her master. She wondered if what the blood vine said was true. If he could really find this treasure, Li Yuanqing's plan here would obviously be able to be realized faster. However, this was too unbelievable. The man-eating vine, Li Yuanqing, and the others might not know much about this place, so it was difficult to distinguish the truth of these words. The blood vine twisted his body and finally transformed into a human. However, his human form was not a complete human form, but a human body condensed from vines. "Master, the catacombs are in turmoil now. Many people are searching for these treasures. If others get there first, there will be fewer benefits. Does anyone else know about this?" "No one else knows yet. Let's go back first." "Master, are you really going to bring this guy back?" The man-eating vine looked at the blood vine gloomily. "This thing has an evil aura. You can't believe what he says." The blood vine's twisted body laughed. "Little girl, you're quite strong, but your breadth of mind is a little lacking. Stop talking nonsense with me. I can tell at a glance that you're not a good person. It's fine if you're fooling Master, but don't say these words to me." The blood vine looked at Li Yuanqing and said, "Little girl, do you mean that your master is even more muddle-headed than you? That's enough. The 2 of you go to the domain first. I want to return to Ping City first." The gains from this trip were already very abundant. Not only did he obtain enough treasures from Sea City, but he also captured some strange animals and brought them into his domain, gradually filling up the gradually expanding space in his domain. Moreover, Li Yuanqing had gained a lot this time in Rong City. The treasures hidden by these 2 powerful lords were a feast. There were many things that Li Yuanqing did not need. He would bring these things back to Ping City and exchange them for some useful things on the market. Li Yuanqing was not in a hurry to find the treasure. He brought the blood vine into his domain space and let the man-eating vine settle it. The man-eating vine casually picked a corner at the foot of the mountain and let the blood vine settle down for the time being. Li Yuanqing took out the map again and studied it carefully. This map was very mysterious. There were many blurry places that could be roughly seen, but these blurry places always made one feel that there was some important information hidden. Li Yuanqing did not know what was hidden in these places, but judging from the current situation, he had too little information. It would not be appropriate to rush to those places with just this map. This blood vine was indeed an unreliable fellow. Although he had already planted the inner demon, Li Yuanqing would not believe the story told by the blood vine so easily. The return journey was very smooth. The demons in this area had encountered such a huge commotion, and the entire area had fallen into turmoil. There were undercurrents surging in this place, but it looked much quieter than before. It was because these guys had all fallen silent, as they did not dare to go out and cause trouble for a moment. The 2 large cities, Rong City and Ping City, were in the hands of the humans. Moreover, the 2 lords of the demons had failed to attack Rong City. Such an outcome made the other demons stay obediently. No one dared to act rashly. Li Yuanqing returned to Ping City without any obstructions. At this moment, Ping City was even more prosperous than before Li Yuanqing left. Everyone here was very confident. Their words were filled with pride, as if they were sincerely proud of Ping City. Moreover, the population of Ping City was much higher than before. Many of these people had come because of the reputation. Those hiding in the wilderness were also immigrants from Sea City and Rong City. Ever since the Sword Immortal appeared in Rong City, the legend of the Sword Immortal in Ping City had spread throughout Sea City and Rong City. Originally, the humans in the two cities did not believe such a mysterious and strange legend. However, when the people in the two cities saw the might of the Sword Immortal with their own eyes, this matter was no longer a legend. Their arrival made Ping City more prosperous. Ping City also had more treasures, and the market exchange here was more frequent. The development speed was maintained at a very high speed. If it continues to develop at this rate, it might become the top city. The city lord wants to tear down the city walls of the outer city. In my opinion, this is not a good idea. Although we had some good days, the demons outside are also very fierce. If we really tear down the city walls, who knows what will happen? Li Yuanqing had just returned and casually found a roadside tea house to sit down and drink a cup of tea. He wanted to rest for a while. He listened to the recent conversation between the two humans. The two of them drank their tea and discussed Hu Jujio's latest decision. The two of them had different opinions about this decision. Another person said, "You're a little too narrow-minded. Do you know that the entire Ping City is developing very quickly now? At this rate, the space in Ping City will become even narrower. How can you live in such a big courtyard then? It won't be long before it becomes a small straw hut." His friend's words made the man hesitate. He thought for a moment and pushed the teacup forward. Ping City is our territory. Outsiders can naturally live in a smaller place. At most, we'll open up a space for them outside the city. It's not impossible to build a residential area. Why must we tear down this city wall? As the two of them were talking, the person at the table beside them heard their conversation. The older one snorted coldly and looked at the person. "It's easy for you to say now. Aren't you an outsider just 2 months ago? Now that you've taken up space, you think you're a figure in this city. That's really ridiculous. Isn't that the point? We came first, so this place is ours. How can it be divided up? Humph, what's the use of ordinary people talking here? In any case, the city lord has her own plans and won't listen to your nonsense." The person who spoke first happened to be sitting next to Li Yuanqing. He turned around and asked Li Yuanqing, who was drinking tea with his head lowered, "Brother, you have to be the judge. Tell me, who is right and who is wrong in this matter? Shouldn't it be first come, first served? Since we were here first, we should take advantage of these things. I'm being called disgusting just by being righteous. Who are you talking to?" The brother sitting at the same table with him also looked at him strangely. He turned around and looked behind him. There was clearly a young man sitting here drinking tea just now, but he had disappeared. In the city lord manner, Hu Jujio, who was in a meeting, suddenly seemed to have received an order and hurriedly ended the meeting. "Let's just let the decision to tear down the city wall go. Let the array masters choose the location. The city protection array must be more stable. We can lose the city wall, but we can't lose the necessary protection. I've already gathered a few masters to discuss the specific plan." Mingluan sat respectfully beside Hu Juju. Below him was a row of generals. During Li Yuanqing's absence, the army in Ping City had been greatly improved. In the past, there was only a simple guard team, but the guard team was not very strict. Now, Hu Jujio had completely expanded the entire Ping City's guards. It was as if they were formed according to the army. The captain of the entire guard team was still Mingluan. Mingluan was loyal to Hu Jujio and had made a lot of contributions. Hu Jujio was still very particular about Mingluan. Their relationship naturally spread a good story among the guards, and it had made Hu Jujio's image as an affectionate person. The current guards could be said to be completely loyal to Hu Jujio. After the guards expanded, they became much larger. There were 100,000 people. This number seemed to be a little too much for Ping City, which had a few million people. However, it was reasonable for their current situation. After making the arrangements, Hu Juju said to them, "It's best to explain this to everyone in detail. Don't let everyone misunderstand. The existence of the city wall is indeed unnecessary, and has hindered the development of Ping City. That's why it needs to be demolished. However, it doesn't mean that we have to give up on resisting the invasion of external enemies. Mingluan immediately replied, "Of course, City Lord, don't worry. I will definitely repeat the words clearly and post the notice to explain it to everyone." That's good. That's enough for today's meeting. You guys can go back first. You've been busy recently. Try your best to control the foreign population and minimize any trouble. Yes, City Lord. The people below stood up respectfully and nodded in Hu Jujio's direction. Hu Juju was the first to get up and walk towards the back of the hall. She turned around and disappeared through the small door. The others stayed and discussed for a while before leaving in a hurry. Demolishing the city wall this time was indeed a relatively risky move. However, it was mainly because Hu Jujio had obtained a very powerful city defense array. Moreover, this city wall had already shown its weakness when the enemy invaded. Therefore, she wanted to take advantage of the weakness of the demons outside to complete this defensive array. At that time, with the huge array underground, the entire Ping City would be impregnable. After Hu Juju left the meeting hall, she hurriedly returned to her room. When she opened the door, a handsome man was sitting inside, drinking tea and waiting. "Master, you're back?" Hu Jujio bowed slightly to Li Yuanqing and looked at him excitedly. "Master, I've heard about what happened in Rong City. Many people came to Rong City and told me about you. It feels like I've experienced it in Rong City after I listened to it." Li Yuanqing waved his hand and said very humbly, "That's not a big deal. I just happened to pass by and taught those two fellows a lesson. Now that Rong City has calmed down, only Sea City is left." Hu Juju said to Li Yuanqing angrily, "Master, you don't know. The humans who came back from Sea City told me that although Hai Chongping said that the two races are completely equal, he secretly suppressed the humans and made the people there live very difficult lives." Li Yuanqing had personally seen these scenes in Sea City, so he naturally knew. Hai Chongping is a very cunning person. I've already given him a chance. Since he thinks that he doesn't need such an opportunity, you should show Ping City's strength. Hu Juju said proudly, "Master, I have such plans. After I complete the defensive array this time, I plan to personally lead a team to attack Sea City and teach Hai Chongping a lesson." We were in agreement, but he bullied the humans in secret after he went back. It's really too much. With the current strength of Ping City's army, teaching Hai Chongping a lesson could be said to be easy. Li Yuanqing seemed to have thought of something and waved his hand to release the man-eating vine. The man-eating vine circled Hu Jujio happily and hugged her arm. She kept calling her sister. "Sister, you don't know. I've missed you these days. Get little man to study the city defense array you obtained carefully and fuse it with the Great City Protection Formation." The city defense array that Hu Jujio had obtained was offered by the humans outside. According to Hu Jujio, one morning, that person suddenly secretly left his things here and left. He did not return after that. Hu Jujio did not know the origin of this thing, but after the knowledgeable array masters studied it, they were all amazed by the power it displayed. According to these array masters, they had almost never seen such a powerful city defense array. If it's fully activated, it can even withstand the attack of a formation arrangement realm expert. Such an array is more than enough for a city with a population of millions. Back then, it was because of the report by these array formation masters that Hu Jujio made up her mind to completely cut off the current situation in Ping City and rebuild it. The population of Ping City had increased too quickly. If they continued like before, it would really affect the vitality of the entire city. In the past, under the system of the demons, although there were many demons, they kept fighting among themselves, causing their numbers to not increase particularly quickly. Moreover, these demons' habit of fighting was too strong. They could not control themselves. If there were two families who were hostile to each other, they might fight to the death. Therefore, in the past, these demons could occupy a large amount of territory here and live very comfortably in Ping City. But in this situation, this was not enough for Hu Juju to completely strengthen the human race. "I saw that you hadn't returned for a long time, so I made a decision on my own. Master, you won't blame me, right?" Hu Jujio carefully stared at Li Yuanqing and studied his expression. Li Yuanqing looked at Hu Jujio in satisfaction and said, "You weren't decisive enough in the past, and made too little decisions on your own. In the future, Ping City will have to rely on you, the city lord. You can't be as submissive as before. You have to have your own thoughts, understand? Then does that mean that you approve of the demolition of the city wall? Li Yuanqing smiled and said, that city wall was originally just a decoration. It's not very useful. It doesn't matter if it's torn down. The man-eating vine hugged the array formation map and looked at it for a long time. She could not help but click her tongue in wonder. However, when she looked at the details, she could not help but frown. Sister, I'm afraid something is wrong. What is it? This array formation map is indeed powerful, but it's very unstable. The man-eating vine said logically, its instantaneous power can indeed block powerful attacks, but because the transmission path of its energy is too narrow, its power is limited. Its continuous defense ability will be affected. Jujio had originally thought that the things that she had found so many array masters to take a look at were definitely foolproof. However, she did not expect that the man-eating vine would discover that something was wrong after taking a few glances. This made Jujio a little anxious. Jujio had seriously learned a lot of knowledge about array formations from Li Yuanqing. Now, she could be considered to have some achievements in array formations. The man-eating vine lowered its head and pondered for a moment before saying seriously, there's indeed a problem with the overall energy flow. However, if it's combined with the Great City Protection Formation and the energy passageway here is slightly modified, it should be able to improve greatly. That's great. Thank you, sister. Jujio looked at the man-eating vine happily. Since the man-eating vine could be resolved, things would be much easier. The man-eating vine patted her chest and promised Jujio, sister, don't worry. Leave this to me. At this moment, footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. The footsteps stopped when they reached the door. Jujio stopped talking and looked at the door. Captain Mingluan is here. As soon as Jujio finished speaking, Mingluan knocked on the door. City Lord, someone outside requests to see you. Who? It's an envoy from Sea City. An envoy from Sea City. Why is he here? Mingluan replied, they argued that they brought a lot of tributes this time and said that they wanted to strengthen cooperation with our Ping City. They are willing to be Ping City's vassals in the future. Jujio looked at Li Yuanqing in disbelief. I understand. You can leave now. I'll be there later. Then I'll leave first. Jujio tilted her head and thought for a long time. She felt very strange. This Hai Chongping is really a cunning old man. He knows that he's weak and chose to curry favor with us again. Master, do you think we can still trust him this time? Jujio looked at Li Yuanqing. Hai Chongping had lied to her last time. This time, she'll let her master make the decision. Li Yuanqing said to Jujio, there's no suitable person to manage Sea City. It doesn't matter if Hai Chongping watches over it himself. Since he took the initiative to come this time, we'll just raise more conditions. All right, master. I understand. I might have something else to do these days. Don't disturb me unless it's very important. Yes, sir. Jujio had just lowered her head and agreed when Li Yuanqing had already disappeared. Zhao Tian, who was checking the accounts, suddenly felt as if his vision had darkened. He raised his head in confusion and looked at the familiar figure in front of him with an excited smile. Young master, why are you back? During this period of time, Zhao Tian had completely become Li Yuanqing's acting manager. Now, he was doing a stable job as the manager. Li Yuanqing had many treasures in his hands, even if the commission was not high, but it was enough for Zhao Tian to earn a sum. Zhao Tian had been the captain of the patrol team in Ping City for half his life. That bit of income was not enough for him to cultivate, let alone start a family. Now that he was the shopkeeper for Li Yuanqing, his income was much higher than before. Moreover, his cultivation level was increasing every day. Therefore, Zhao Tian was very grateful to Li Yuanqing. He treated Li Yuanqing respectfully and as his only boss. Li Yuanqing took out a ring and placed it on the table. Take out all the things inside and sell them. There's no use keeping them. See if there's anything useful for you to use. If there is, then you can keep them. Zhao Tian picked up the ring and checked inside. In the end, he was almost shocked. The ring was filled with treasures. The ring was stuffed tightly with treasures. It could be said that there was no empty space. He even suspected how Li Yuanqing had stuffed these treasures so firmly. They looked too close together. Whenever there was a place that was not arranged properly, there would be a large area empty. Moreover, the treasures inside were not simple. Many of the things inside were very precious to spirit transformation cultivators. However, these things were simply like toys to Li Yuanqing. They were useless to him. Blood transformation pill? Flying dragon bones? Nine-tailed phoenix tail wings? Zhao Tian had to take out a little to see everything inside. However, such a simple thing filled the shop. Young master, you've gained a lot this time. Zhao Tian sorted out the things one by one and recorded them in the accounts. He could not be careless. Li Yuanqing first packed up some of the things in his domain. Although there were many of them, it was only half of them. He was sure that he did not need these things. It would be best if he could exchange them for some treasures. Because their shop had a lot of treasures, they were quite famous in Ping City and had a lot of goods. In the past, Li Yuanqing might have chosen to sell these things to the treasure pavilion. That way, he would be able to exchange for spirit stones faster. However, the sales volume of his shop had already increased, so it was about time to sell them here. Li Yuanqing took out a small box and placed it in front of Zhao Tian. Recently, most of the things he had obtained from signing in were domain fragments. There were relatively few other things. Moreover, he would occasionally obtain some divine origin pills in some small places. In terms of pills, it was a little monotonous. Li Yuanqing already had too many divine origin pills on him. These divine origin pills were still a very important method to replenish spiritual power for spirit transformation cultivators. However, Li Yuanqing had no use for them now. He had at least thousands of them on him. He gave a few portions to Hu Jujia, and he specifically left one portion for Zhao Tian. Zhao Tian was a very stable person. Since he was willing to work for him, he had to help him increase his cultivation. Zhao Tian was stunned for a moment. He looked up at Li Yuanqing and took the small box. He opened the box and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This looks like at least 100 divine origin pills. This might sell for a lot. Is the divine origin pill easy to sell recently? Of course it's easy to sell. The divine origin pill is still in a priceless state on the market. As long as it's released, it will definitely be sold out. Li Yuanqing took out another box and said to him, "Keep the box in your hand for yourself. Sell all the divine origin pills in this box." "What do you mean keep it? Do I use it myself?" Zhao Tian never expected Li Yuanqing to say such a thing. How many spirit stones would it take to sell so many divine origin pills? But was Li Yuanqing giving these things to him just like that? That was too generous. He had never seen such a generous boss before. Did this boss really not need to earn money? But in comparison with Zhao Tian, it seems like these divine origin pills were nothing to Li Yuanqing, who had taken out so many treasures. Your cultivation seems to be stuck. If you use all these things, you should be able to increase your overall cultivation by 2 levels, right? Young master, your senses are really strong. I'm indeed stuck a little now, but isn't this too much? It's okay. Just keep it. Don't think too much about it. Thank you, young master. Help me keep an eye on these things recently. If you can buy them, don't hesitate to buy them, no matter the price. As Li Yuanqing spoke, he took out a long list and placed it in front of Zhao Tian. Zhao Tian took the list respectfully. He could not help but smile bitterly after glancing at it. Young master, the things on your list are really rare. Even though Ping City has a lot of things now, these are not easy to find. Zhao Tian looked at the treasures piled up beside him and then at the list. No wonder Li Yuanqing ignored these things. These were the true treasures, he thought. Therefore, the difficulty of the list that Li Yuanqing took out seemed reasonable. It doesn't matter. Just leave it to fate. If there is, you must buy it. I don't care if the cost is high. Young master, don't worry. I'll definitely pay attention. If there's any circulation on the market, I'll definitely help you get it. I won't neglect it. All right, thank you, shopkeeper Zhao. Young master, don't be too polite with me. It's all thanks to you that I'm where I am today. I'm very grateful to you. Li Yuanqing instructed everyone and quietly returned to the small courtyard. Although he had not returned to the small courtyard for a long time, it was very clean. According to Hu Jujiu, Qiu Muyun would come back to clean it from time to time. Although he no longer lived here, Qiu Muyun was very grateful to Li Yuanqing for taking him in. Qiu Muyun had already become a very famous blacksmith in the treasure pavilion. Although he had started late, he had received Li Yuanqing's guidance. In addition, his comprehension was very high. Moreover, his value was not high now, and the success rate of refining some simple Dharma artifacts was higher. Therefore, Qiu Muyun had already become a popular blacksmith and had many fans. Li Yuanqing heaved a sigh of relief. He sat on the familiar stone bench and waved his hand to release the blood vine. The blood vine knelt on one knee and slowly raised his head to look at Li Yuanqing. "Master, tell me about your incarnation's ability." The blood vine's body moved slightly as it said to Li Yuanqing, "Master, this clone technique can only split out a wisp of its soul. Even if it's 10,000 miles away, it can still be connected. However, it's much weaker. It shouldn't be of much use to you, right?" It sounded like his puppet technique. As long as it was someone controlled by Li Yuanqing's puppet technique, their divine sense would be shared. That kind seemed to be stronger. Li Yuanqing instructed him, "Put one down first." Without hesitation, the blood vine stretched out a hand. A crack suddenly appeared in the palm of the twisted vine, and a small round ball slowly squeezed out. As soon as the ball jumped out, it turned into a small sprout with 2 legs and ran around the ground. The blood vine released the ball. The 2 sprouts that grew out of the ball turned into 2 small hands and started digging on the ground. In a short while, the little fellow disappeared. It burrowed into the ground and ran far away. It dug another small hole a few hundred meters away and revealed its head. The blood vine relied on this ability to release dozens of small sprouts and let them go out to find similar places. Although these little fellows were very weak, they were very agile and their auras were weak. They did not attract attention easily and could generally survive for a long time. For example, the furthest one had already run thousands of miles away. His ability really surprised Li Yuanqing. "Master, I wonder when we'll leave?" The blood vine looked at Li Yuanqing respectfully. He seemed to be especially concerned about this matter. Li Yuanqing ignored him and put it into his domain. On the other side, in the City Lord Manor, the envoy from Sea City knelt respectfully in front of Hu Jujio without any arrogance. "City Lord Hu, our City Lord has said that our Sea City will be Ping City's vassal in the future. No matter what the City Lord says, we will do it without hesitation." Not only did the envoy bring expensive gifts over, but he also directly confirmed the vassal relationship of Sea City. Hu Jujio could not say anything else. Mingluan stood guard at the side and looked at the Sea City envoy quietly. After Hu Jujio gestured to him, he said, "Our City Lord means that the situation in the entire catacombs is very complicated now. We can't even take care of ourselves, so we don't need such a vassal city yet." The envoy suddenly raised his head and looked at Hu Jujio in disbelief. Hai Chongping had already lowered his attitude so much. He did not expect Hu Jujio to take them down a notch. It was beneficial to Ping City if Sea City was a vassal of them. Moreover, it would expand Ping City so much. How could anyone reject it? "City Lord Hu, our City Lord is really sincere about combining the 2 cities. In the future, we can strengthen our cooperation and complement our advantages. This will be very beneficial to both our cities." Mingluan suddenly took a step forward and blocked his way. He glared at him and said, "Why? Did you not understand what our City Lord means? Go back and tell your City Lord Hai that our Ping City is fine and doesn't need such a useless subordinate." The envoy was not angry at being reprimanded. Instead, he smiled at Mingluan and said, "Great General, you also know the situation outside. It's chaos. If our 2 cities don't strengthen our cooperation, then one of our cities will be destroyed first in the future. At that time, can you still say these words?" Mingluan sneered and looked at him. "Are you threatening me?" "Great General, you've misunderstood. How would I dare to threaten you? However, I think that it's a troubled time now. If we can become one, there will naturally be a more condensed power. It's extremely beneficial to both of us. If the City Lord insists on doing this, I'm afraid there will be a day when you will regret it in the future." The envoy's words were very convincing. He looked at Hu Jujio as if he had calculated that Hu Jujio would definitely regret her decision. Juzhou was not very interested in their sea city to begin with. If they took over that place, there would be no suitable candidate to be the city lord. Although that place was still quite rich in resources, it was already a very important step for Juzhou to manage Ping City well. As for what happened after that, there was no hurry to do it. The envoy from Sea City could not understand why Juzhou had such courage. It was very strange. He was clearly here to submit, but she did not appreciate it. Such a strange thing had happened. This envoy originally thought that his words would be able to wake Juzhou up. However, not only was Juzhou unmoved, she even yawned. It seemed like she was not interested in his topic at all. Juzhou waved her hand and instructed Mingluan, "Take good care of the envoy. Don't let him be neglected here, in case he reports me to his city lord after he returns." City lord who? Don't misunderstand. Our city lord has always respected you very much. As long as you give the order, the city lord will immediately bow down to you. But why? Didn't you hear? Our city lord said that you can go down and rest. Don't tire yourself out. Don't waste your breath here. But the envoy from Sea City never expected that his trip would end in failure. When Hai Changping gave this mission, he thought that he was confident that nothing would go wrong and did not take it to heart. Moreover, he felt that the city lord had lowered his stance too much, causing them to have no room to bargain at all. Therefore, he thought about it and wanted to obtain more benefits from this negotiation. This was also the reason why he spoke a little more forcefully just now. He did not expect Juzhou to directly reject his suggestion. This was his life. If this agreement could not be negotiated, then according to Hai Changping's words, he does not have to go back anymore. The envoy hurriedly knelt on the ground, wanting to stop Juzhou. However, Juzhou left without looking back, leaving Mingluan holding a sword in front of him. "What are you doing?" "Great General, as long as you let us submit to you, you can become the king of Sea City. Isn't this a good thing for Ping City? But why did you refuse?" Mingluan said to him angrily, "How would I know why? Of course, since the city lord has already given the order, there's no room for negotiation. Bring these words back obediently and tell Hai Changping. Also, don't pretend not to hear our city lord in the future. Otherwise, you won't be able to withstand the anger of our city lord." But the envoy wanted to continue persuading Mingluan, but Mingluan refused to listen. He glared at him and said, "I've already made it very clear to you. If you go down obediently now, I can arrange a guide for you. You can tour Ping City for the next few days. It's possible to go back after you're happy. But if you're stubborn, I'm afraid there won't be a guide for you." The envoy knelt on the ground, paralyzed. He had never expected to be defeated so completely this time. He had thought that it was such a simple task. But why did he encounter a rash person like Juzhou? Sea City was such a huge city, but why did it seem like nothing to Juzhou? It was not tempting to her at all. The worldview of the Sea City envoy was about to be shattered. He did not know what he had done or said wrong. However, how was he going to explain this to the city lord when he returned? Even though the envoy of Sea City was extremely lonely, he was helpless. Now that the defeat was certain, he could only leave obediently. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain if he really angered the other party. Although the business had not been completed yet, at least he had a chance. He did not want to seal off all these future paths. After watching the Sea City envoy leave, Mingluan stood on the high wall of the city lord manor and pondered silently. The subordinate who went out to send him off quickly ran back. A group of people gathered behind Mingluan and lamented. "What do you think is wrong with the city lord? Why did the city lord abandon such a fertile piece of land in Sea City just like that? I feel that this is too much of a loss. That old coward Hai Changping has already sent the entire city to the city lord, but the city lord just said that she doesn't want it. Isn't that so? In my opinion, a person like Hai Changping isn't qualified to be the city lord at all. I'm afraid he won't be able to survive for long. Could it be that he can't survive anymore because he lost his status in Sea City, so he wants to take the opportunity to cozy up to someone outside so that he can live a little longer?" Everyone had their own opinions, but this argument made sense. Not only had Hai Changping violated his agreement with Juzhou, but there were also many dissatisfied voices in Sea City. Although he had indeed done many things and allowed the demons to continuously harm the humans, there were still many people who took the opportunity to accuse him of being a profiteer. As a result, Li Yuanqing's reputation in Sea City plummeted. This time, he took a fancy to the rise of the human race in both Ping City and Rong City. On the other hand, his position was indeed in danger. Many people had already infiltrated to be his guards. Mingluan looked quietly at the bustling street below. No one knew what he was thinking. Captain, in my opinion, this is a good opportunity. If we can take this opportunity to take down Sea City, and if you can take this opportunity to nominate yourself to be the City Lord of Sea City, won't we all soar into the sky by that time? Instead of staying here as a small guard captain, why don't you run to Sea City and become the City Lord? At that time, you will really be above everyone. Mingluan looked down at the city tower silently. With his current strength, he was still lacking if he wanted to be the City Lord. However, it would be hard to say if he had Hu Jujio and the support of the Sword Immortal. As long as Hu Jujio was willing to open her mouth, he could become the City Lord of Sea City. However, he was just a guard captain. How could Hu Jujio send him to be the City Lord? Although Mingluan was very tempted, this idea was indeed a little too radical. It would be best if that's the case. He muttered softly. His subordinates behind him seemed to have heard his words and hurriedly came up. Boss, what are you saying? You must want to do this very much, right? Then let's tell the City Lord together. I believe that the City Lord will definitely not give up so easily with such a favorable situation. What are you thinking about? Behave yourself and don't think about so many useless things. Remember? Mingluan suddenly turned around and reprimanded them angrily before leaving. The group of lackeys looked innocently in the direction their boss had left with aggrieved expressions. They originally wanted their boss to be able to achieve meteoric success, so they, as his subordinates, could follow suit. However, why was their boss so angry today and scolded them? What's going on with boss? Cut the crap. Recently, boss has been feeling uneasy. Perhaps he has gotten into a conflict with the City Lord. As his subordinates, we should be smarter. We can't anger the City Lord. Mingluan left the City Lord manor and returned to his residence. Not long after, a black-robed figure left in a hurry. The Sea City envoy sat on the bed with a frown, not knowing what to do. He had thought of all kinds of ways, but it seemed like Hu Juju no longer planned to see him. She instructed her subordinates to get the local demons to bring him here and send him back after 2 days. How could he have the face to go back? The envoy's face was filled with worry. When he saw the bustling streets and pedestrians outside, he was not interested at all. It was as if everything outside was only annoying and boring. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Who is it? Lord Huang, it's me. The person who came spoke very quietly. However, the envoy could immediately tell that it was the great general, Mingluan. He hurriedly jumped up from the bed and rushed to the door. He opened it respectfully and looked at Mingluan excitedly. General, why are you interested in seeing me? Did the City Lord change her mind? Mingluan walked straight into his room and poured a basin of cold water on his head. Don't think too much. The City Lord has already made up her mind. She won't change her mind easily. This? The envoy looked at Mingluan sadly, and his aura instantly withered. He had finally been happy for a while, but now that he heard this news, how could he be happy? He cupped his hands at Mingluan. Thank you, General. You were able to find time to tell me about this in your busy schedule.
I'm eternally grateful.
However, there are other ways. Perhaps there's still hope. Mingluan suddenly gave him hope again, as if he could see light again. General, what did you say? There's still hope? I'm just saying maybe.